Welcome to Dairy Pod, a podcast series from Dairy Australia. Featuring a range of experts, each episode offers insights into Australia's unique dairy farming conditions, as well as personal experiences and the latest in dairy innovation.
Welcome to Dairy Pod. I'm Scott Jardine, Carbon Farming Extension Advisor with Dairy Australia. Today, I've got Warren Landles from Burra Foods, based in Gippsland, and we're going to be having a bit of a chat about a process of collecting and working with farmers to calculate their carbon number. So, Warren, can you tell me a bit about yourself and your background in the industry?
Yeah, sure. Great to be with you, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity. So yeah, Warren Landles, I'm Sustainability Manager at Burra. I've been working in sustainability for about 20 years in food and farming, specifically in manufacturing. So my role at Burra is Sustainability Manager and Operational Performance. So my job is to turn emissions reporting from a compliance headache into something that improves farm and factory performance. I've also got some hands-on farming experience and background from my time in other countries that I've worked before arriving in Australia. So I'm pretty comfortable on farm as well as being in the boardroom. So that helps, keeps everything practical. And really at Burra, we're focused on understanding our on-farm Scope 3. It's our biggest part of our footprint. So we started a pilot with your good selves to learn what's involved and try and build some capability within our team, and certainly not to claim that we've solved anything at this point. So yeah, it's been a good exercise and a good program we ran with you guys.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. And just to get catch on that, so those scopes of emissions. So when we're talking about carbon emissions, we talk about them being a scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So that's scope 1. What we look at is the location and the level of control. So scope 1 emissions are emissions that happen inside your business footprint and you have full control over. So that's things like, for a dairy farm, all of the emissions that are coming from your cow, any of the emissions from fuel you're using. Scope 2 is generally looked at as electricity. So that's emissions that someone else is producing directly linked to your own on-farm activity. So you decide to switch the light on and off, and the emissions occur somewhere else. Scope 3 emissions, well, they're the emissions that someone else is doing that you don't have direct control over, but they're connected within your supply chain. For Burra Foods, as you said, that Scope 3 emission, the majority of that is associated with the milk that they're bringing into the factory. So that's really great. So can you tell us, as a sustainability manager, what does a day look like for you, Warren?
Good question, Scott. It's very varied. So sustainability, if I asked that question to 100 people, I would get 100 different answers. I've done that within Burra. A lot of people focus on the environmental side of sustainability. But, you know, sustainability covers all aspects. So we're looking at also from the environment point of view, but also governance at a governance level. So more often now, you know, it's ensuring that we've got the right data, that we've got a good process, that we've got transparency, and we're seen as, you know, a reputable business. Also from a people perspective, it's looking after people, so ensuring that, you know, we're keeping them safe, we keep them well trained, we pay them well, we pay them on time. You know, it's about looking after our staff. Our staff are our biggest asset, and then also when I look at the community side of things as well, it's really important. Because, you know, we are based in Burra. It's a business that's been established for many decades, and we support the area in terms of working with our farm suppliers and other businesses. You know, we're injecting hundreds of millions of dollars into the local economy each year. So there's a big spectrum of work that sits under sustainability. But for me, you know, it's about efficiency. So if we can be more efficient with what we use, so if I'm thinking it's certainly like water use. If we can be really efficient with that, we lower our impact. So the amount of water that we do use, the amount of water that we then have to reuse and send to our wastewater system, and ultimately, that helps the local community because we reduce our impact, but also it helps save costs for our business as well. So it's a win-win in many respects. And when I look at sort of carbon, particularly, again, it's about efficiency. That when we start seeing low carbon intensity figures, it usually means a business is running really efficiently, with their inputs and outputs.
Yeah, definitely. And in that sort of changing carbon space, I guess with all of the carbon emissions reporting and target setting, what are the expectations and your requirements that the processors are needing to do for the market, for customers, and for government?
Yeah, great question, Scott. I mean, look, we are customer-led. We're a customer-focused business. Our customers are asking us for this information, as they are with all their other suppliers. So we export a lot of our products, and our customers are now asking us for very detailed information about our carbon footprint. How efficient are we as a business? In terms of the energy use, but also, let's say, water use. They're looking at our packaging that we send them. Is it recyclable, etc. And what's the footprint of actually that packaging? And then, So the customer comes first, and then obviously regulators now increasingly important. Now we fall under a new set of disclosures, and with that, again, we have to go into a lot of detail, looking at all our aspects of our business, to provide a carbon number for each of those areas, as you just explained. Scope 1 and 2 and 3, and actually provide that transparency that we've collected the data. It's something that we can hold our hand on our heart and say that's correct, and that auditors would find that information correct as well. So there's a number of avenues, but certainly customers are leading this current wave of reporting, data capture.
And in this sort of change in in both the market and sort of regulatory expectations, what have these changes meant for you? Like, what's changed in your role over the last couple of years?
Yes. So in sustainability, when I started out many, many years ago, it was about telling a story. So it was a nice thing to do. And sometimes it was a tick box exercise. We had someone working in sustainability, but actually now, really what it is, it's getting into the guts of the business. It's actually a business function, sustainability. So take aside the reporting, which is really in depth. But as I say, it's about getting into looking at our efficiency. So, really sort of turning up every stone in the business and having a look and peering and sort of seeing, look, could we do things better? Why are we doing it this way? Is there other ways, new technology that's available to us, particularly as a processor, working with our energy providers now, in terms of, there are aspects where we can obtain renewable energy sources to power our factory. As I say, looking at our water use specifically, but it's really, really in depth. It's business, absolute business focus. There's no there's no sort of hugging of trees. That's it. Because this is really serious now. It's not a nice to do. It's a we have to do it.
Yeah, and I guess that is that whole thing, that data is king in this space, isn't it? But every spot that we've got data, we can actually use that to help to make some of those really important efficiency decisions. So that's really cool. So Burra Foods supported your farmers to calculate your carbon footprint with Darius Joe's carbon advisory team. So myself and Robin McLean were out in Gippsland for an intensive week at the end of last year. What benefits have you heard from the farmers in having calculated their carbon footprint?
Yeah, so I think the biggest benefit really, Scott, was clarity. Because they don't know what they don't know, and we didn't know. We've been working on industry standards, industry averages for Gippsland. So we really wanted to delve into the detail and find out, what our farmers, how are they performing. So yeah, certainly turn some of that vague topic into some measurable drivers on their farm. And I think what it did is it helped some of the farmers, separate that a signal from the noise as well. So they can actually see what actually moves the number. So it's that versus what's marginal. And actually, farmers enjoy benchmarking.
Yeah,
they really do. I mean, it's not a league table. It's not competitive, but
I think there wasn't one of those calculations that we didn't ask. Well, what did old mate down the road get?
Yeah, there is a little bit of that. What's my neighbour up to? Definitely. But yeah, no, it's a good way of them understanding their own range and certainly what good looks like. And with that, certainly this project wasn't about pointing any fingers. It was just, look, this is where we are to date. But I think what it also does is, it's going to help build some confidence when we're talking to our customers, but also within the community where farmers are based, because we're not being defensive. It's they can say, this is our baseline and here's what we're doing about it.
Yeah.
Because we actually know. So I think it's sort of, take some of that muck and mystery away from this. And as I say, the lower the number generally signals an efficient business. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess with the relationship with the farmers, both with the regulatory requirements, but also just getting them to the stage of being ready to calculate their emissions, there's been a few changes in that relationship and expectations. How did you guys go about communicating these changes to the farmers?
Yeah. So look, I guess really supporting them through this process to calculate their carbon. I mean, the hardest part isn't the calculator. Mm-hmm. It's data gathering. And so, and that's where this confidence comes in, because crap in, crap out, essentially. So you want to make sure you've got using the right data, you get the right answer at the end of it. So certainly working, our milk supply team and yourself, Scott, Dairy Australia, that helped create some credibility. And certainly kept that tone, supportive, rather than this being a compliance-driven exercise.
Yeah.
And definitely, look, farmers respond, when you respect their time.
Yeah.
So, you were really, everybody worked well in terms of, being flexible. And also that pre-work matters. So just shows, when you start to do and use a standardized template, that you can do those quality checks up front, and then you're not wasting any time sort of untangling any inconsistencies and other things. So I think that the process is, it's a bit like anything. If you prepare beforehand, usually the process works well, and it allows look, the good thing is it allows more time for farmers to ask questions. Because that's the bit I enjoyed as well. Is so many questions came left field, and I think it's just what people think they've heard, and the rumor mill and things like that. So just able to just sort of give them some clarity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've said this before in discussions to you that, I think that the approach that was used, where we did have for a lot of these meetings, it was someone from Burra, someone from Dairy Australia went out to each of these farms. We had that sit down discussion, but it was a real arms around sort of approach. So the farmers were really feeling, I think, supported, and that they were part of the journey rather than just having it inflicted on. So from our view, I think that we felt that it was, a really positive approach in that space, but big respect to that relationship side of things, because it really is that relationship, isn't it?
It is, and that's what our milk supply team have. That they've built that over many years, and our suppliers have been supplying Burra for many years, and it's because of those relationships. Absolutely right. So yeah.
Now, when we were doing the calculations, were there any surprises for you? Any farms that had really unexpected results?
I think there wasn't sort of too many surprises in the big picture. I think everything was pretty consistent with what we know. Enteric methane, so that dominates, certainly. But yeah, I think the spread between the farms definitely stood out. Even though, they're running broadly similar systems. So the intensities that we found, so the carbon per kilo of milk corrected for fat and protein, that did vary. I think obviously we're dealing with a fairly small pilot number at this point, so outliers did throw some of those aggregated figures. But I think farms, maybe, some farms we were talking to, they expect that the diesel and electricity would be a big issue, but actually it became really quite minor in the grand scale of things. But yeah, definitely helped focus that where's the big wins? Where's the big wins? And productivity, we've spoke about this, Scott, is really probably number one, because what we find is obviously the more milk we produce per cow, the intensity per litre lowers. And so our focus is always about how can we be more efficient on a farm without the detriment. We want the cows to produce good milk and plenty of milk, but also not to the detriment of getting cows back in cart and things like that. So it's always about
absolutely. And I guess that's one of the things when we do look at those trends. We ran those comparisons against things like the size of the herd or the replacement rate, and we weren't necessarily seeing any really strong pushes in any direction. I know that sometimes we get farms that talk about being like that they're really trying to just keep growing and growing, but really a lot of the farms we see where they find their comfortable space, and that's where they can be most efficient. So we did see that one of the smaller farms had a really low carbon number. They had more trees, and I think that's a really key space where being able to understand all those different roles that those trees play, that it's not just storing carbon, because I think that is a big surprise for a lot of the farmers. They go, well, I've got multiple hectares of trees on this farm, and I've got a carbon footprint in the thousands, and I've got 29 tons of carbon being stored in these trees this year. And so the things that you don't see in that figure are that if we've got those trees providing shade and shelter, they're helping to keep the cows cooler in summer, then that helps to boost that production. Because every degree over 25 degrees, we're seeing an impact in milk production. So if we've got a 40-degree day, that might be 15 litres of milk that the cow's not able to produce because she's using that energy to try and keep cool, isn't she? So if we see those farms able to strategically use that shelter and strategically use these other aspects, it's much more than just that little bit of carbon sequestration. It's just helping to have a lot more production. And at the end of the day, our emissions intensity is the figure that we're looking at here. And that emissions intensity is the amount of carbon that we're emitting or storing divided by the amount of product that we're generating. So that's really key. And the more product we can generate, the better. So that's always good.
Certainly, the better. Yes, agreed. From a process perspective, yes, our kids, we would like, we want to work with our suppliers and produce, good quantities of good quality milk for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that space, from the factory's perspective, what are some of the benefits of having your farmers calculate and share their footprint?
Yeah, so I think it gives us that primary data. Before this pilot, we were referring to the industry averages, which were a good test, but really in terms of what the customer requires, they want more specific detail. That's for sure. I think this is a really good start for us with this pilot study. It's going to improve the credibility, certainly with customers. So again, that's another big shift in trust. I think it does support better decisions as well. As I say, we can really start to target those real hot spots. As we say, productivity, enteric methane, manure management, fertilizer management, those kind of areas. So we've got a bit more direction of travel, I think, because we've got the evidence with that. Definitely it's helping us prepare for our regulatory disclosures, as I mentioned earlier, and those in assurance expectations as well. And I think it's going some way to helping strengthen that relationship. We've got a good relationship with our suppliers, but continues to strengthen it because we're working on a shared problem. And we're definitely not trying to push the reporting down the chain. The farmers are doing the hard yards here, but we're helping support them with that reporting. So there's a number of key benefits there, definitely from doing this, from taking this approach with farms.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were saying, like, I guess when you look at comparing against the regional average, and shifting from that space to using actual real data for each of the farms, because that data is really key for them to be able to make decisions as well. When we look at the outputs from the dairy carbon calculator, what we see is we don't just get one number at the end, we get a breakdown of all of the different components, the different greenhouse gases, and where that's attributed to throughout their production chain. So being able to say, hey, I am comparing against the rest of the region, and for instance, my enteric methane levels are much higher than the regional average. What difference does that make for me? And we can say, well, let's have a look at what you're feeding here, and is that feed of sufficient quality to be able to get a good level of production, but also to get that feed moving through the rumen quickly enough so that we're not losing as much to methane emissions. So that's a really key thing that we sort of work with the farmers to be able to break that down, don't we? To say, what does this difference between your numbers and the region's numbers tell you about what you can focus on? So when we're looking at sort of some of the key takeaways, particularly for others who might not be sure that they're ready to take the plunge to do their carbon calculation yet, what would your message be?
Yes, I think like anything in life, Scott, if you wait until it's perfect, you'll never start. So I think you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to get that baseline, and then you've got something to work to. So as we've just said, benchmarking it against other systems, you can see where improvements could be made. Definitely don't do it alone. There's support out there. Hence why we've worked with yourself, Scott, and Dairy Australia, because let's play to our strengths. So credible support and certainly a consistent method, which is key, because the calculator allows us, if with other processors doing the same program and using the calculator, we can start to compare apples with apples, which is really important. Just going back again to the big levers. So definitely focus on that enteric methane, the manure management, nitrogen and purchase feed, those being the big four. So you don't waste time on other areas. Those can be the focus areas, because that can be very overwhelming.
Yep.
You think, oh my goodness, what do I need to do? I've got all these things to change, which you don't necessarily. And for us, look, we're being honest about some uncertainty, so that the pilot for us with yourselves was about learning. We've got a small pool at the moment of milk that we use with the calculator, but it's scaling now is where it's going to become really defensible for our customers and the regulators. And as I say, the biggest win is not just the number. The number's really important. It's really interesting, and that's the bit that people wait for when you run the calculation. But then it's the ability to make the decisions afterwards with confidence, because you've got those figures, and you can sort of see where your farm system sits. I think those would be the key takeaways for us.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I guess that is something that we do sort of see reflected. So in some of the past surveys, we've had a lot of farmers that have said that they are doing things that help to reduce their emissions. In the 2024 sustainability survey, we had about 95% of dairy farmers that were saying that they were doing things that would reduce their farm emissions, but only 10 to 11% of them were actually doing a carbon calculation at that stage. So moving forward 2 years, and we're in a bit of a better space, but it really does come back to that space of really, when we're looking at the role of data, we know that we can't manage what you're not measuring. So this really gives us that tool to be able to say, what are we looking at? How are we trying to boost this efficiency? And then having those figures to help us to make those decisions. So this is not just a once and done thing, as you've said. What's next for Burra Foods in this space?
yeah. So yes, scaling. Certainly, we've enjoyed this process. We feel comfortable, again, the practicalities of doing it and completing it. And again, the ability to work with yourself, Scott, and Dairy Australia. But yeah, we want to scale this now and cover more farms. I think, farmers talk to farmers, so they will have heard from those that took part in the pilot, that this isn't laborious. The challenge, as I say, is getting the information at the start. They all have it. They've all got it to hand. It's just, finding it and having that done beforehand. The time on farm then is kept to really efficient. We're talking 1 to 2 hours, depending on what the questions are being asked.
How many sidetracks we end up taking, isn't it? So we have a lot of interesting sort of rabbit holes and side quests when we're having these discussions. But
yeah. As I say, that's the beauty of it, because those are the nuggets that you get from those conversations. That's our plan now. We from a reporting entity, we've got some key timelines and milestones to meet. As I say, our customer requirements are coming thick and fast. So whilst this has been a great start for us, we can't officially announce that this is an internal figure for us at the moment, because, as I say, we need a greater spread of farms to work with us on this. So, yes, so the next two years, that's where we're going to steadily build and actually have something we feel that we'll have some really strong defensible figures from that.
Yep, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for having a chat with me today. I will, just wrap up with a couple of little calls to action. So, regardless of whether you supply Burra Foods or any of the other milk processors, have a chat with your milk supply officer. They may be able to help you on their own, or they may be able to help out with a bit of support from me. We will have a link in below the recording for being able to put your name down for a one-on-one support request. So get in touch. Don't feel that you have to go it alone. Again, thank you very much for your time today, Warren. It's been really awesome having a chat with you.
Well, thank you, Scott. And again, thank you for all your help at the end of last year.
Not a worry at all.
Thank you for joining today's Dairy Pod episode. We hope you found it enjoyable and insightful. For more information, check out the episode notes. You can stay up to date by following Dairy Pod on your favourite podcast platform. To get in touch, visit dairyaustralia.com.au. Until next time, take care.